Hey guys, these are the videos that I've created for you to kind of follow along and build your black box space, and to use to hopefully guide you along in creating it and hopefully ease any questions you may find as you're kind of going along with it, that you can kind of see my process. As you kind of heard in class, there's a lot of different ways you can go about building any project that you do here in SketchUp, so this is just kind of my recommended way of going about doing this. Uh, but so first thing I'm going to kind of go ahead and do is I'm going to choose Laura, I've selected her, and I'm just going to delete her out. She's not very useful as she's a 2D character, and we will later on add our own 3D character. But so first step I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my square rectangle tool, and I'm just going to click on a spot. And in my dimensions, I'm going to put 61 foot, and then a comma, and then 61 foot again to create my square. I'm just moving the space around to kind of see how better than I would like and just arrange it onto there. Next thing I'm going to choose is my offset tool. And I want to offset that square inwards by about 1 foot. I've created that nice square on the outside. I want to just go ahead and continue those lines out. So I've clicked on my line tool. I'm going to click at that point and I'm going to carry it off screen, making sure I'm following that green line off to make sure it follows it correctly under the shape. I'm going to choose my eraser tool and I'm just going to erase that little off bit. I'm going to erase that line out. I'm going to go ahead and erase that line out. I'm going to choose my line tool again and I'm going to pull it through. And then I just want to kind of erase that last line out. And that should give us our exterior walls. Most of the walls in that black box we're going to make are going to be about 1 foot. The next step should be making our first light lock that we have in this space. So I'm going to choose this corner at the bottom where I haven't gone, and I'm going to click on the green, and then I can kind of see again I'm dragging my line out. I want to make sure I'm following that horizontal and I've got that blue and make sure I'm on the edge of it. And I'm going to take 8 feet so that I've gone outwards 8 feet, and then you should be able to find that green dot again where that lines. And then I want to drag that up by 8 feet and go across again by 8 feet. Again, another way you could have done that was use your rectangle tool and draw it in there, or any other method. Next step, I want to choose my offset tool again, and I just want to pull it in 1 foot to, again, make my walls. Do the same thing like we did that, choose our line tool, drag it down, erase out a little bit, erase these 2 exterior lines we don't need, and same thing again. To draw that all the way across, erase that out. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw in where the door frame would be for where this is. So I'm going to choose that interior corner. I'm going to draw, and I want to make sure again I'm following along that line. I'm going to type in 6, and I'm just going to hit enter. That should give us our inches already. I'm going to draw upwards, and then I'm going to choose where the end of that line is at 6 inches, and I'm just going to go ahead and go over 3 feet. Find where that lands. There it is. And then I'm just going to draw upwards and on the edge. And that should give us our ideal where that door frame is. I'm going to go ahead and just erase these lines out because we'll do it later. But so that should give us our first light lock that's in the space. So the next thing we're going to kind of do is work with recreating all of these light locks. That the 3 of these are actually all the same shape. This one is the same size, just the door frame is a lot bigger because it leads into our seam shop. But so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this shape here that I've just dragged across, and I've selected all 3 pieces of this. I'm going to choose my move tool and I'm going to hit control, and that's going to let me duplicate this object. That I can drag it across, and there it is, the exact same shape and everything what it is. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to hit space to get back into my selection key. I'm going to right click on this shape and I'm going to flip along it. I'm going to choose flip along the red. This will let me then move this shape. So I've selected my move tool again. I'm going to choose this corner and I'm going to drop it there, and that gives us our second light lock. And for our last one, we're going to repeat the process. So just going to select all of that, use my move tool, click on it. Oop. Make sure you've hit control, because if you've already clicked on it again, like you've seen, if you haven't, you can just go ahead and drag onto it and it'll drag it around. Immediately just hit Control. That'll resolve that problem. So we've dragged it over. I want to make sure I've got my select tool. Right click on that shape, go down to flip along, and this time we're going to flip it along the green. Use our move tool, move it over to here. For this last light lock, we'll go ahead and do the other method again of let's draw a rectangle for it to get it into here. So we're going to choose that corner, clicking on it to make sure that's where our base point is, and then we're just going to type 8 foot, comma, and then 8 foot again, and that gives us our shape. We will offset this inwards by 1 foot. We'll choose our line tool. This one is up 6 inches across, and then from there it's 6 feet across. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and use my eraser tool to erase these lines because I don't need them. Choose my line tool and drag this across. Erase that out, erase that line. And so choosing my line tool again, these two doors are the same size, so we're just going to take the line tool and draw it straight across. Hit my space bar to get the select again, choose the line again, draw it across. And if we use escape, that'll let us again escape from having to go back in selection. So we're going to take our eraser tool and we're going to erase again the bits that we don't need. So don't need that. Oh, missed the line here. We want to make sure we've connected that up so that, again, we can connect into this space. So eraser tool, erase that line, erase that portion, that portion, that portion. At this point, I'll leave this one in here, but that portion isn't part of it. That's gone. So at this point, it looks like we have a pretty good ground plan of the space. This is the first floor of what the black box. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to finally do the fun portion of SketchUp of actually 3D'ing it and pushing our walls out. So we're going to go up here and choose our push-pull tool. Click on it, and again, wherever the shape kind of again lands on it, you can see that blue little dash pattern. That's the portion we're going to push and pull up. So we're going to start with our exterior wall. So we're going to click once, and again, you can pull up one direction, you can see it move up, or again the other to go up any direction that again it allows it, unless it occurs into like an issue. But so we know the height of these, and we're just going to type in 35 foot 6, and then hit enter, and that gives us our first wall. Now that we already have one, we can choose this other exterior wall, click on it, and drag it up, and we can see it lands up to that height, and we can choose the same one. Those green dots tell us it's, again, that's what it's choosing to. And if you're for sure, if you want to make sure of it, you can see down again on that distance that it tells us it's 35 foot 6. So go ahead and click on that. The next things are the light locks that we'll go ahead and start giving heights. So click on it. I know they're at 10 feet, so type that in, hit enter, and that's where they are. If you're doing duplicate things at different ones, you can go ahead and double click, and that will keep sending the objects to the last height that you just put into it. That's another kind of quick way, again, is go over to it, again, find where that dot is, double click, and I'll let you get to it. But again, you can click once, you can go onto it and click it. We want to make sure, again, if you're clicking and you're holding, the problem with this, again, is that if you release it, that's where it's going to land. But again, if you go to it, hold it over to it, you can release it, and there it goes again. Oops, see, gone too far and clicked the wrong thing. So I'm just going to Control Z and undo it. Click on it. There we go. So that should give us, again, now these beautiful light locks. I'm now going to choose my eraser tool. I'm just going to erase out these lines that get carried up. When we push and pull objects and it's connected to something else, they'll always give us kind of these line drags. They're not really useful for us on this. You'll find different projects that they're great for, but so that should now give us our light locks. So we're now at a point that would be great to add our second floor. So again, many methods to go about this, but I'm going to go ahead and grab this corner, and I'm going to make this beautiful rectangle right here. Once we start to get into the 3D objects that are kind of into it, when we draw these lines, it closes it in and creates us these box shapes. We're just going to delete them out because I don't want that there. But now I have my walkway to it, and I want to go back to my push or pull tool, and I want to give that some height. Height of 1'6". And so that should give us our first kind of walkway. And so the great thing about it is now I'm just going to push and pull till that edge, and now I've given the top portion of that. Same thing here, I can push and pull to that edge, and it gives it to me. Next thing to get this other one across, I'm going to choose my line tool. I'm going to select this corner, and I'm going to draw a line up so that I can create myself another rectangle here that I can push and pull. So grab it with the push-pull tool and drag all the way across. See at this portion I'm holding it, and that's what kind of the problem is now I'm trying to angle it, and that's why I'm using my mouse wheel to kind of move around. So I'm to that edge, I've dropped it, and it gives me that next one. Last portion, again, same process, repeat, use my line tool, click on it, push pull tool, click, select it there. And one more time, line tool, drag up, and then I'm going to use my push pull tool, and I'm going to drag this across. And that should give us our second floor. You can see again when you move around and fly around your space, some of it has given you again these lines across. We'll go ahead and use our eraser tool. We're just going to go ahead and delete those out. Again, don't need them. They're extraneous marks. And again, you can kind of see in here where it's done it. Just kind of go around making sure we clean some of these things up. Now that I have that line, it can get kind of deleted in there because again, it's part of the exterior portions, and just less lines, less information will help our kind of models not get bogged down too much. So that's where we can kind of, again, go around and start cleaning up some of the shapes, some of how it looks. So that's all I'm kind of going to do is just float around and make sure I've just kind of been deleting out all these exterior pieces that I don't really need to get it through. The next thing is I'm going to use my select tool. Let's go ahead and start adding in our doors. All of these doors are going to be at 7 feet. So again, there's a lot of different ways we can go about this. So the first one, we're just going to choose up here, click on it, click corner to corner to make sure that we're creating this top shape to fill it in. Go back to my select tool. So I've created again this now great rectangle that I can pull down to kind of fill in this hole that's right here. I know this height is 10 feet, so I'm just going to kind of pull it down 3 feet. 3 feet to get this opening that's here now. That is now my 7-foot door, and we can check that by pulling up from the bottom, and we can see again at our length that from this point to the top is now 7 feet. So I've created my door opening. So I'm just going to use my eraser tool, and I'm going to again clean out these lines that I don't need, that don't give us any again extra kind of use, and we're just going to repeat it multiple times. So another way again that we can kind of repeat that same process is we'll use the move tool. I'm going to click control, and I want to make sure I have this selected. So selected, move, hit control. I want to choose that corner of it, and I've created that duplicate shape. And I'm going to just copy it onto this. So I want to click that corner, paste it onto there, and I've already created that. The only portion is now I just have to pull that square that's there across. So choose my pull tool, have this selected, pull it back, and again, now you've created your door shape. You just again rinse and repeat to erase out those lines, to clean it out. This is starting to become a little bit better of a habit for me as I'm working along with textures, but you'll notice the two sides to these things. One is white, one is this kind of blue, gray, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and I want to choose reverse face to get all the blues on the outside. This is just a texturing rendering problem that you'll come into it, and it's just kind of trying to get that in bodies that like something we want to do. So I'm going to do the same thing up here. It's just something to be mindful of that once we get into the process of like actually rendering and stuff, like that's something you want to have. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on these faces and do that while I'm at it. That I want to make sure I see all of these beautiful little blue faces on the outside so that when I get into actually like doing cool renders of these things, I don't run into that problem or kind of weird things that go onto it. On to the last two. So again, we'll start from the bottom this time. We'll go up 7 feet. So I'm choosing my line tool. I've clicked on the bottom. I've typed in 7 feet. I found that endpoint. drag across, top, just gonna click top and top, and I've created that piece again. And I'm just gonna use my push-pull tool. Not why, just select that shape. There we go. Push-pull tool into it. So that's something you may find too, that when you use the push-pull tool, is sometimes it doesn't leave, like it takes the negative shape, it takes the shape and pulls it across, and you don't get that last one. So you may have to again go in and just redraw that line back into it. Again, erase, erase, backside, erase, erase. Beautiful shape. Again, reversing these faces just because I want to make sure I have the X side in. I'm not obviously worried about the bottom because no one's really going to see that space. And reverse face, right click, reverse face. Last door. So I'm just going to draw the square from the top. So I click top points. I'm just going to use my line tool to draw the top points. You can see again, I've now got this beautiful shape to it. So I'm going to use my push pull tool, drag it down 3 feet. And there's that door. Use my eraser. And I'm just zooming around to the outside. Erase, erase. Okay, so we're going to do the last wall. So I just want to kind of, again, fill in now this top portion to it. So all we're going to do is we're going to use our line tool, go onto this exterior point. I'm going to draw upwards by 7 feet, draw across, and then I'm just going to choose my push-pull tool. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to drag it all the way across. And that should give us our last wall. We just need to then use our eraser, erase that out. Same thing here, I don't need that on the floor anymore. And I just want to erase that portion and just clean it up. Again, exterior little lines I don't need, but that's all that is. But great, that should now, as you can kind of see here, we now have our first floor and we now have this beautiful second floor that we can begin to work on above. The next step is we want to start drawing our railings. So I've shown you into those that there are 2 different types of railing. Again, we're just going to kind of grab my line tool, but I'm going to draw this on the outside of this on a different space, but I'm going to choose my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw the first pillar of it, which is 4 comma by 4, and that should create our first little small portion to this little bit. Now that I have that little base drawn, I'm going to use my push-pull tool. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to pull it upwards by 9 foot 8. Enter, and there it is. And I want to select my line tool, and we want to start getting to where the horizontal poles, our railings, are at on this. So I want to find where the center of this portion is of that 4-inch line. So clicking right there, and then I want to draw 2 foot 2. That's where the bottom portion of that rail is. So I just want to draw upwards 1 more inch. And then I'm going to hit escape to get out of that. Then we want to hit the drop down tool because we still have that rectangle over here. We want to choose our circle. We then want to click where that center point is of it, and it draws where the center is. You can either, if you're lucky enough, the SketchUp will still grab to where that 1-inch line is, or you can just type 1 inch and that will draw your radius, and that gives us that first point of where our railing will be drawn across. Next thing is I want to take that same thing and I want to draw, clicking again where that top portion is to it, I want to draw upwards 10. That's the spacing between these two, so then 1 more inch. Escape, choose my circle tool again, click where that point is, make sure again I draw a radius circle that's again 1 inch out, and that should be where the heights are. So I'm just going to use my eraser tool and I'm going to erase these bits out that I don't need. Goodbye. So there are 2 portions of railings in this project that the end caps of the railings are the same. It's just the width of it. So I'm going to go ahead and I want to select this whole thing. I'm going to choose my move tool, hit control, and I'm going to make a duplicate of it. And I'm just going to land it behind it just for right now. And then I want to start to draw in the spacing of where, again, how long these kind of pieces are. So I'll choose my line tool, and I'm just going to choose that portion here, and I want to get that spacing that's in there. So I'm drawing across, making sure I found my horizontal. I'm going to 5 foot 10.5, hit enter, and that's the spacing that's in here. So again, multiple ways to do this. I'm just going to do it this method that I want that square portion, and I want to duplicate it. So I want my move. I want to hit Control. I'm going to select this corner of it because that's where I want it to repeat from. And I want to drop it right there. And then I'm going to erase that line out because I don't need it anymore. Then I'm going to choose my push-pull tool. I'm going to make sure I click on the top of it, and I can just line it up and get it to that height. And then same thing, now we can just draw these pipes across. You can make sure you drop it in the edge, or the glory of some of this is that you can go ahead and have it float on the inside of it. That on this interior of this object, even if it's sitting in there, no one's gonna see this interior if that object doesn't like sit inside there. So like just making sure we kind of draw it all the way across, and it connects again into that, and we now have our first kind of pieces of railing. And again, same exact process for the other sides of it. We're going to take a line, we're going to draw it across 6 foot and 1/2 inch. We're going to take the square, we're going to duplicate it. So move, Control, click that corner, drop it on there, choose our push-pull tool, click on it, draw it across, and then we're just going to draw these pipes. And I think I'm selected to it, so push-pull, there it goes. And then we're going to drag across. And we're just going to use our erase tool. And now we have two what look like exactly identical pieces. So we're going to color them differently. So I'm going to use my selection tool. I'm going to choose the piece that's smaller. So I've highlighted all of it. I'm going to choose my paint bucket tool, and I'm just going to arbitrarily color it red, just so that I can know what that these are two different colors. Didn't want to grab. There we go. Just so that I know that they're two different ones. And the last step that I'm going to do with these railings before I start implementing them into my shape is I'm going to make them a component, and that'll kind of show its useful later. So I've selected all of one. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to make a component, and I'm going to label it whatever this wants to be. So I'm just going to call this small railing. And then I'm going to hit create. The rest of this information comes in later, but for right now, all we want to do is just kind of go with that. And what it'll do is it goes ahead and it makes a single whole group. So now that you have to like click into it, double click into it to be able to kind of affect this thing anymore. But when we're outside of that, it now X's one. So we want to do the same thing here. We want to highlight all of it, right click, make component, and we're just going to call it large railing. And then we're going to hit create. And again, beautiful, same thing. So now we have both portions of that railing. So now we can start to kind of add it into our piece. So I'm going to select this railing. I'm going to use the move tool, and I'm going to hit Control just because I want the piece on the outside. Maybe I want to affect it later. I'm going to begin placing these pieces. So place one there, and then I'm going to hit Control again, and I'm going to place another one over here. Make sure that's all good and lined up. Great. And then I'm going to choose my large railing. I'm going to hit move. I'm going to hit Control, and I'm going to click that portion of it and making my duplicate. And that's where I want to kind of go in. These pieces sit on top of each other. It's just kind of what I've found with it. But so I've got it in there. So I'm going to move again, hit Control. I'm just going to kind of duplicate this along until it all falls into my place. Duplicate, hit Control again. Drop it on there, and should hopefully fit one last one on here. You'll notice maybe it's a little bit too big. In the case of the scale model, we can just kind of make that work. So we're just going to kind of hit scale, and I'm just going to pull it out a little bit. No one's going to notice something like this so that the shape into it, but it just wants to kind of clean it up into it. And so that gives us one set of this railing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start selecting it also. I've got my select tool. I'm going to hit Control, and I want to select every piece of this railing. Making sure I'm clear and don't select other pieces to it, because you can see here I accidentally select Control. I'm going to hit Shift, select that last one. So I've got all those pieces of the railing selected. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to make it a group. This is just because, again, maybe I want to go in and affect this whole railing piece different, and I don't want to have to do it all. So I'm going to double click, and now I'm inside that group. And now that's great because, again, now I can just select those pieces that I want. So I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit M, and I'm going to Control. I want to select this corner because I'm going to duplicate all those pieces to it, and I'm going to drop it on that corner. And now we have the other half of it. We're going to fold in our last pieces. So we're going to do the same trick with the rotate tool. We're going to hit rotate. We want to make sure we're on that blue plane of it, and we want to select this corner, and we want to hit Control. We want to select again the point that we're going to kind of pivot from originally, so here, and then we're going to kind of just turn it 90 degrees. Oh, and you'll see here I selected the wrong one. I should have gone a little bit inwards, which is fine. So we'll just hit M, or we're going to use the move tool, select that corner, place it. Beautiful. So we can again use the move tool to copy it over to get it to the last place. So move, Control, drop it on there, and that gives us our last kind of piece that gives us into what this is for here. So we're now into our last kind of step for this of going ahead and adding in the third floor. So we're going to use our line tool. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to draw up 9'8". And then I want to just draw across. And then I'm going to use my push pull tool. And I'm going to pull this in 11'6". And then I'm just going to use my line tool again, and I'm going to draw this nice line across, making sure I follow that line tool, that red line out, so that I can get again a good horizontal. But yeah, with my push pull tool again, pull this in 11'6". So the next step is to, hopefully you have already downloaded it, but you will need to import the grid that I have created for you, because that would be rude of me to make you have created this grid. It's not very pleasant to make. But so you'll see in my files, I'm just going to File, Import, should open it up, and then I want to go to where I've saved it. So I've saved it under here, and then I want to add this portion, which is mine. I'm just going to click on it, and then import. And you can see it brings in that file for it. It was made in SketchUp, so it should be a pretty happy file. And when it drops it in, this shape should hopefully be a group for you. So I just want to go onto it. I want to find this corner. That's why I'm zooming into it. Use my move tool, click onto it, zoom out again, just to get here. And then I want to click on that portion to drop my grid there. And then I'm just going to go through, and as you can see in here again, I've just got a couple lines I want to clean up and kind of get it into what the space should be. With this last stuff, I'm just going to kind of fill in the missing kind of lines that I feel like should go ahead and be here. This kind of is just a personal taste thing, but yeah, I'm just going to draw across, and in this case again, I'm just kind of furiously finding where that line meets. So drawing that across, drawing up, gonna erase that portion to it. We're gonna take this, draw it across, again, get that line. And I want to get that last line shape in there. And then I'm going to click on this. I want to give it just a little bit of height, just so that it hides my little portions in there. Delete, delete. Use my push tool. Pull it through till this edge. Give myself a nice little line right here. push tool again. And I'm just going to drag it across until I meet up with this point. And then I'm just going to erase again those lines in there that I can kind of go ahead and get rid of to, again, when we color this, make it a little bit easier on ourselves so there's not a bajillion lines. Erase that out. Reverse this face to make sure we got all the pretty faces out. Erase that out. And at this point, this should be where part one you should feel finished. That really at this point, you could go ahead and start designing in the space. But we want to start adding textures and we want to kind of again go through and clean it up. So please make sure you've noted questions or you've noted things you may have been running into or problems so that I can kind of help you guys in class. So just let me know. Yee!